sabi mo kanina. So there are a lot of tools that you can use. AI tools to expedite planning and designing.
Like for example sa GitHub Copilot, parang yung implementation phase ng SDLC, mas yun, na-expedite niya nga. But still, parang kailangan pa rin natin ng human touch on some phases.
Welcome to Kaka Computer, where tech meets wit and wisdom. So, for today's episode, we have an interesting question. No? Is the software development lifecycle still relevant? Who want to go first?
So, I think to answer that question, yes, it's still relevant. From my experience, sir, I'm a early career professional. And si SDLC, parang naturo lang sa amin to nung college. But then, ako, hindi ko siya masyado na-appreciate. And right now, working, parang mahalaga yung phases ng SDLC, but they're not, a prescription na kailangan mong sundan, follow strictly. And now, I'm working as a data scientist, parang iba yung framework namin. But still, may mga elements nung software development cycle na nandun. Yan. And, hindi siya outdated or hindi siya relevant pa rin siya ngayon kasi nandun pa rin naman at the start of every software project, nandun pa rin naman yung planning, yung requirements gathering, and such. How about Sir Charles?
Yeah, I believe it's still relevant because a lot of methodologies sinusunod pa rin naman. Like sila Agile. So, sinusunod pa rin ng SDLCs. Though, yun nga, hindi nga lang sobrang strict. Actually, even nga Agile, maraming hindi nakakasunod na strictly. But yeah, I would say still relevant pa rin naman as of now.
Yep. So, when it comes to building software, services, or your product, definitely you will still need to follow the SDLC. Not, as you said, Charles, no, na we're not following it strictly. But when you want to build a scalable system, it's important pa rin na you do a proper planning, requirements gathering, proper coding, testing, and so on. But siguro ang misconception kasi with SDLC is we sometimes refer it to the traditional waterfall model. So ang tanong ko ba is still relevant pa ba or nag-exist pa ba yung waterfall model today? Diba?
I'm not sure if meron pa, pero in my experience.
Short answer would be yes. It probably exists. But do you want to go there? Because I just wanted to kind of like wrap up my first question before we jump to the waterfall. Na parang, yeah, SDLC, I guess we're all in agreement that in any way, shape, or form, it is still very relevant. I mean, we're still building software up to now. Yes. And somehow, we still need this sort of governing, sort of parang structure of our framework and how to do things. Definitely, it helps a lot. I guess one comment that I have about, people not following strictly, you also mentioned earlier na it's not really prescriptive. So there's no part of requirement for you to follow things strictly. And even in the Agile manifesto itself, they would say na, you adapt this based on your organization's needs.
Yes.
And I guess this is yung fact of life din. Apparently, if you move from one organization to another, they'd have a different flavor of Agile or SDLC or something that's going on. And they probably gravitated towards what kind of works for their team, for their composition, for their organization. And that is fine. And then at the end of the day, if you have like a process to follow, then it makes things easier. I guess, within a team, at which phase and which state you are or what you needed to do. And that helps a lot. You mentioned planning, right? Yeah. So it's kind of part of having that sort of plan or in place, a predictable process in place. So that kind of summarizes up at least an hour sort of view on, what keeps, if SDLC is important or valuable. Now going back to the waterfall question.
Kasi I just want to clear things up. Like SDLC is not just about waterfall.
Yeah.
Agile is a part, or is a type of methodology under the SDLC. So when it comes to waterfall, does it still exist today? Maybe some of the companies still use it because, syempre, it will boil down to what is the requirement. How definite is the requirement?
Absolutely.
Parang may mga instances din na yung framework mo is agile, tas parang in a team, nagiging waterfall na tayo. Parang nagiging ganun yung instance.
Ngayon kasi with the advancement of technology, it's very essential how you ship your product or your software as quickly as possible for your consumers to really enjoy or to add value to your consumers. So that's siguro something na sinolve ng Agile or being flexible on in terms of the phases of our software development. Kasi ngayon, hindi ko naman sinasabi na dapat talunan natin yung planning or yung design. Pero, di ba? Pero siguro ang nakikita ko ngayon is because of these tools na available, like frameworks, the design can be, we lessen down the focus on there because we can build software right away with these tools.
Yes.
And with these tools like yung frameworks sa UI, like yung mga Bootstrap, Material, you will be able to build the software right away and we can able to see already what is the functionality we want to build.
Okay. Well, I was like thinking, in the grand scheme of things, may approach. Depende. Yung sagot talaga is depende. Definitely merong waterfall kasi yun yung nag-work for whatever activity they're engaged in. And then definitely kung parang medyo uncertain ka about the requirements or unsure of the problem or the approach, then you can be agile. That is pretty much yung main purpose ng agile na allows you to be agile, to have agility, to kind of like change things up as you go, as you discover new things. And iba-iba nga din yung nature ng problem. I'll go for the problem domain. If yung problem domain is pretty static, pretty rigid, pretty well-defined, then you can go with a waterfall approach and then you're good to go. But if you're not even sure of your problem yourself and there's a lot of parent variables you kind of need to discover along the way, then yeah, absolutely. Agile would be the other end of the spectrum. Tapos sinabi mo din, di ba kanina na parang merong mix of both, which you can think of it as that. Like you can think of parang each sprint or each plan as a sort of like a mini waterfall of something that you already know. Di ba? In Scrum, you have like a bunch of sort of user stories and backlogs. You can think of it as sort of like a mini waterfall sort of project in it on itself. But you're still building incrementally. And you still are allowed to make changes every time you move to a different phase, depending on, what the product owner would say. Again, this is with Scrum. And in Agile, it's just really sort of like a general sort of guidelines, suggestive ones, not prescriptive, but you can adapt it. And as far as I know, outside of Scrum, there are also a bunch of agile approaches that
Kanban.
Yeah, and there's so many things, and as everyone can have their own way of doing agile in their organization.
Yeah, actually, it really depends on how you want your products to be built. What are the considerations you have, like ano ba yung budget natin when it comes to build your product.
Okay. So yeah, absolutely. The constraints would really determine like how you're gonna roll. Yeah.
Pero for me, if you want to build a product that will be scalable, maybe from a decade or maybe longer, you really need to follow or have a proper planning or at least a design, because on that stages you will be able to identify the risks. And kagaya nung nabanggit mo kanina, when it comes to life cycle ng product or ng services, there will be time na madedeprecate yan. So how are you going to engineer your product to be on that level na may iwasan or at least malalesen yung impact ng deprecation?
White Cloak Technologies is a custom software development company. They build mobile and web applications. They work with leading brands in banking and real estate. Visit their website at www.whitecloak.com to know more.
So shifting our topic. so with the recent tech advancements ngayon like AI or for example DevOps, how does AI or DevOps integrate or conflict with classic SDLC stages?
When we say classic, are we talking about like waterfall and other?
Yeah,
So let's say waterfall kasi ang DevOps is usually linked up with Agile.
Yeah, I believe if we're talking about DevOps, if if waterfall yung pag-usapan natin, medyo mahirapan sila. Kasi nasa dulo eh. Nasa dulo sila. But katulad ng sabi mo, mas nakalink siya sa Agile because it's the whole process nandun sila.
Yes.
So,
Siguro with the different perspective kasi DevOps is a movement. Like it's a tool like how you bring the people together in a team.
Yeah.
So nile-leverage niya yung gap or ina-address niya yung gap between developers and operation to ship the products faster.
Yeah, the question is loaded. It's leading. It's parang yung mga prompts talaga dito, no? May medyo controversial. So, yun nga, classic SDLC. I guess all I'm saying is that I agree. Medyo weird yung idea of a classic SDLC. And definitely, yung Agile came about to address certain, realities of building software na for the most part, siguro hindi mo talaga alam kung ano yung requirements or maybe yung how you view a problem changed over time or maybe it's not really accurate or even yung state ng technology. So you need some agility to be able to adjust and move along the way.
To be able to adapt.
And definitely, DevOps kind of sprung out after Agile to be able to support din yung nature of yung dynamics of really running a software shop, a tech shop, and make have like a lot of automations in place and easy yung integration ng operations and development, lalo na kung yung application yung payment operate mo will eventually be pretty dynamic,
fast pace.
Yeah.
So
going into AI, like how do you see the impact of AI on SDLC itself?
I think may mga phases doon na pwedeng ma-improve niya if gagamitin mo ng tama. Like, so for example, planning and designing, like sabi mo kanina. So there are a lot of tools that you can use. AI tools to expedite planning and designing.
Like for example sa GitHub Copilot, parang yung implementation phase ng SDLC, mas na-expedite niya nga. But still, parang kailangan pa rin natin ng human touch on some phases.
So it's all good, right? No? Maski naman kasi towards testing and before the deployment, you can have some automation around that. You can also write up really quick unit tests and all sorts of tests using AI. So you said, from the design to implementation to actual tests and maybe rolling out. Definitely AI brings a lot of advantages. Pero kasi if I look at yung question the other way, has AI development changed? Like what if you're developing AI software? Like, whoa. Is that what it was saying? Because if on the other side of, if I'm going to frame the question the other way and say, I'm building a generative AI application, how does that change my SDLC? And I said that's kind of pretty a funky, idea. Simply because in classical software, di ba, dun sa testing, parang you have yung concept of coverage, na parang you have yung all sort of scenarios and test them and see kung magpapasa ba yung test and okay yung software, di ba? Pero may certain applications, like say with generative AI, na medyo open yung text na you can't have coverage kasi input can be anything.
Yeah.
And then you have like a different sort of, at least towards the end of validation phase ng SDLC, medyo magbabago yung parang qualifiers mo, yung gates mo, whether you want to push through with a generative AI application or not, whether it passes yung test mo to make it productionized. So,
pero for me, like when developing agentic solution, will it matter? It will still matter to have a proper planning because you will do prompt engineering, right? So from there, diba, parang you need to have a proper prompt in order to generate the results that you wanted. And if you're going to deal with machine learning, you need to have a proper data. But when it comes to validation, siguro yun nga, kagaya ng nasabi mo, there will be some deviation on how you will validate, how you will test the agentic solution because
yung nature niya generative,
very volatile. It can vary on different prompts.
Non-deterministic,
But right now in the industry of AI development, meron bang sikat na fina-follow so far or Kanya-kanya na lang.
No, I'd say yung generative AI in developing applications. Specifically that, I'm not talking about yung traditional predictive ones because that's also pretty much set. You have yung parameters, di ba? You can have, you have certain measures. Kung parang classifier yan, di ba? Parang you know what is positive and negative. But going to the generative AI, and these are the things that are really changing really fast. A lot of the developments happening in the past year, in the past.
Yeah.
So mas pagdating to sa validation, medyo pabago-bago din siya. Like the other day, I just saw a paper na yung explainability na ginagamit from yung parang chain of thought reasoning is not really definitive of making yung generative AI application transparent. So for now, I'd say it's a moving target. So parang wala kang really absolute na parang de facto standard that this is how we're gonna validate things. But there are like a bunch of ideas, a bunch of ways to test things, and we'll see how these things develop as we go.